we've been talking, obviously, over the course of the last several weeks, and last Thursday's show talked about the case of Charlie Gard, and last Friday, Charlie Gard actually passed away. And so I thought it would be appropriate sort of to talk about it. That basically this was a state-ordered, really kind of premature ending of a life. This was Charlie, for those of you who aren't frequent listeners of the show, Charlie was a little boy born in the United Kingdom. I think his birthday is actually very, very soon. I think it was actually August 4th, 2016, so it's tomorrow.
Yeah.
And he's only 10 days older than my daughter, Sophia. Charlie was born with a rare mitochondrial disease. He suffered brain damage. He was only able to breathe through a respirator, and his parents raised a bunch of money to get him to the United States to get some experimental treatment. The British government, which runs all of the hospitals, including the one where Charlie Gard was being treated, prevented the parents from doing this, basically acting as if the parents were engaging in child abuse because they were trying to get this rare experimental treatment that, yes, didn't have a great likelihood of success, but nevertheless, the British government was acting as if they were trying to do something that would actively harm their kid, and instead insisted that his ventilator be removed. Now, the parents could have opted to have the ventilator removed. I don't think it would have been morally wrong, but it's their kid, and they were making a reasonable decision that we would like to pursue this experimental treatment. We would like to raise the money ourselves. We would like to do it. But the courts in the United Kingdom essentially adopted the reasoning of the pro-assisted suicide left. They basically said, no, Charlie has suffered brain damage, therefore his life is not worth preserving through these extraordinary means. The possible benefit of him living is first off, very unlikely, and if it does happen, his life really isn't worth extending and preserving because he lacks these capacities. So essentially, the courts prevented the parents from doing this, and it leaves us with a very chilling sort of vision of things, of how the state relates to parents, how the state relates to people making end-of-life decisions. Really, Charlie's case, I think it's more concerning, it's not so much concerning as an abortion issue, it's concerning as a assisted suicide, end-of-life decision-making kind of issue, that if the government can make these decisions about end-of-life treatments and can make these decisions based on a warped understanding of human dignity that views human beings as only having value because they have certain capacities, because they can do things, and not because they are simply human beings, it just sets a very scary, dangerous precedent.
Well, John, I have to chime in there and say, I know you're right. Explicitly, this is not an abortion issue. However,
it certainly relates.
Imagine if Charlie was experiencing all these same symptoms, but he was 6 months in utero.
Yeah.
And the doctors there said, you know what? No, we believe that your child will have a very poor quality of life, may not even survive for a few hours after birth. So as a result, we will cover the abortion. We will cover the termination.
But we won't cover Charlie coming to term and being born.
Right.
Right.
And because you right now, his mom, was it Connie?
Mm-hmm.
You're having, let's say, some complications. You're on bed rest. We will not discharge you from the hospital until you get an abortion.
Yeah. I
mean, what's the moral difference?
Yeah, there really isn't one. And especially when you're talking about, again, we don't take positions necessarily on healthcare policy and healthcare structure, but when you're talking about a government-run healthcare system where all the hospitals are run by the government, all the doctors and nurses are government employees, all the decision-makers at the hospital are effectively representing the government, you're giving the government this enormous control over life and death decision-making.
Right.
And unless you're supremely confident in the moral compass that the government is going to use to make those decisions, you may be putting way too much power into their hands. And then here's the story that sort of makes us think, well, this isn't just a random one-off thing. This is a kind of systemic problem in the British healthcare system. This is from LifeSite News. Another Charlie Gard hospital fighting to pull baby's life support against parents' wishes. From Liverpool, a story from August 1st. A Liverpool hospital wants to yank the life support of a 14-month-old baby, but his parents want to bring him to the United States for treatment. Tom Evans and Kate James, again, if you like it, put a ring on it, guys. Are the parents of Alfie Evans, who has been in intensive care at Alder Hey Children's Hospital since December. Alfie has a mysterious, undiagnosed disease. He's in a coma and has seizures. The case is reminiscent of Charlie Gard's, which garnered international attention. Charlie's parents fought Great Ormond Street Hospital for months to be able to transfer him to the U.S. for experimental treatment. Hospital wanted to remove his life support. Charlie was removed from his ventilator. Here's a video of Alfie. Has a video of him being responsive and moving and sucking on a pacifier. Doctors have warned that they may have to take legal action, as Tom, Alfie's dad, will not let them, the hospital, switch off Alfie's life support, reported the UK Mirror. Tom, the dad, says more than a dozen U.S. hospitals have offered to help, including one in Miami. More than 12,000 people have signed a Change.org petition asking the hospital in England to keep Alfie on life support as his parents speak with specialists who, quote, could help diagnose Alfie and give him the appropriate care. The first discussion that the hospital had with Alfie's parents suggesting to turn the life support off was on New Year's Eve 2016, the petition said. Doctors said that Alfie may only have hours to live, and therefore his mother and father baptized him. Alfie's heart rate was slowing down from head to toe. He was cold. Miraculously, Alfie pulled through this. So again, it's we see a similar problem with assisted suicide in California, that you have doctors who will, he has a terminal diagnosis. He only has 6 months to live, and that's the basis for allowing someone to receive assisted suicide, not acknowledging that a 6-month terminal diagnosis is not like something set in stone. It's not like I think non-medical people have this idea that doctors, like when they say 6 months, it's like, okay, at 5 months and 30 days and 23 hours, you have 1 hour left to live. No, it is an estimate. It is a guess. It is an educated guess. Doctors often want you to get second opinions. Second opinions can often vary, and doctors can often be incorrect in their educated guesses. The idea that doctors would be so eager to pull a kid off life support when there are other doctors and medical providers who are willing to take this kid in to try to do another diagnosis, to try to figure out what's wrong, to try to help him. The parents want help, but what are we dealing with here? Again, we're dealing with a healthcare system that is run by the government, that has an interest in keeping costs down, that has an interest in not prolonging the lifespan of expensive patients who are hooked up to life support, who are taking up rooms, taking up staff time, taking up expensive medical treatments. Healthcare is a limited resource. Okay, if the government's paying for everyone's healthcare, they're gonna have to draw some hard and fast artificial lines, and that seems to be what's happening for this little boy Alfie over in the United Kingdom.
Especially because, John, there's these constituencies, sadly, other than the parents, there is not a well-funded lobby group to lobby for children with birth defects.
No. Alfie's, reading more from this article, Alfie's case is in a sense more disturbing than Charlie Gard's because there is no diagnosis yet for little Alfie. Yet some doctors have already discussed Alfie's case as one of, quote, futile care and proposed removing his life support, which would end his life. His support is futile in the doctors' minds precisely because it is sustaining his life. It's, it's a really scary thing. And like you said, Jonathan, similar oppressive kinds of requirements from healthcare providers could be placed in the case of someone pregnant with a child with a defect, forcing them to terminate the pregnancy or putting financial pressure on them to terminate the pregnancy rather than continue with the pregnancy. There's so many ways in which this mindset could be destructive and harmful and could lead to the loss of innocent human life.